All right, welcome to the first of its kind, world-changing manufacturers network. Lisa Ryan has her ears to the ground and her heart in the game. Get ongoing education and new connections right here with Lisa and the Manufacturers Network. Buckle your seat, listen, and spread the word. Here's Lisa.
Hey, it's Lisa Ryan. Welcome to the Manufacturers Network podcast. I'm excited to introduce our guest today, Jennelle McGrath. Jennelle is the dynamic leader of Market Veep, a top-tier agency specializing in helping manufacturing companies grow their market share and enhance their sales and marketing efforts. Under her leadership, Market Veep has achieved significant recognition and success within the B2B manufacturing sector. So, Jennelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Lisa. I'm excited to be here.
So share with us a little bit about your background and what led you to doing what you do with Market Veep.
Yeah, of course. So I started my first company when I was 18 in college. And by the time I graduated, I had a full book of business and really went out and never had a normal 9 to 5. And so that business I had for about 15 years. And at the 15-year mark, I really realized that I was very unhappy and that my main focus of the business, of the parts that I fell in love with, was really the marketing side and the business side, which was what my degree was in. So I determined that most of my journey, I was sure that it was employees that were causing that friction and that I just wanted to be a consultant. And within a year, I made that change. And within that year, I was back to the same spot of trying to figure out, how come I feel this way again? Because I had more clients than I knew what to do with. I was working nights and weekends again. And so I recognized that it really is about culture fit and the people fit and making sure that you have that right alignment to help an organization grow and scale. And so from that moment, I had a business coach and he said, you either need to stop taking on new clients or you need to find really good fit teammates. And so that's what I did. I hired my first person about 9 years ago and have built it up. So this is our second year on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies. We're a HubSpot Diamond partner. We're great places to work. We're certified. And so we've really just made that the key focus of our organization. And so that transfers over into how we communicate, work with clients, and we love the industrial space. They're very like-minded individuals and really just want to help each other. And so that's one of the things that I love about this particular group. And we do everything. So we function like a traditional digital agency that you would expect when we think about marketing. So social, content, website design, LinkedIn, Facebook, PPC, all of these things, except everything we do is connected into HubSpot so that we really can see the full funnel of what that pipeline looks like.
Interesting. It's a great realization when a leader can look at their business and realize, what, maybe I am the problem. And it is about workplace culture, because when you create that workplace culture where people feel valued and appreciated, they're much more likely to stay. But that's also a difficult situation because this is your baby and you're letting strangers come in and mess with your stuff.
It's interesting too, because in the first business, it was really a transient business. And I think the like-mindedness, where at that point in my journey, we didn't have core values. We didn't have the same onboarding structure of what's like a 5-step process that we go through to really make sure we ask silly questions. So personality fit, all of these pieces that make somebody feel connected, especially now, since after COVID, you really have to be creative of how do you remain connected through a Zoom call, through email, through a Slack channel, through mailing. We mail presents now to teammates and gift bags and things to help keep that piece of it alive.
Exactly, because you want to make sure that you are getting the right people on the bus. In a lot of cases, we're seeing all of these 3 million manufacturing jobs are going to be short by the year 2030, and all of these other scary statistics that sometimes we just want to say, hey, if you can fog a mirror, we can hire you. But instead, making sure that the people that you bring on are the exact right match for you, even if it takes you a little bit longer to make sure that happens. And
Yeah.
silly questions, that's a good one to make sure
Yeah.
the personality, cultural match is there.
Yeah, we have some silly ones. To your point too, like that, I think that was probably the hardest lesson out of that entire experience was like the uncomfortableness of being okay saying no to somebody that they might have 90% of the things that you're looking for, but still missing that magic sauce, and just being really patient and saying, I know my gut of gut that this is what the best fit and the happiest that employee will be. If they come here and we let them in, we're not doing them any favor either, that they might not have the same alignment. And we want people to come here and be excited and really enjoy work.
Yeah. And we see people who look great on paper. They have a great pedigree. They have a great background, but you introduce them to your current teammates and you let them spend some time together. And sometimes your teammates will come back and say, wow, that person was awesome. And there other times they come back and they say, if you hire that person, I'm out of here, man, because they're not a fit.
It's good though when they can say it, right? I think sometimes people are scared. We do team interviews too. And I think the first time somebody does it, they're like, they seem nice, but I don't want to say anything. When we just have that open transparency of this is what I think and what my gut says, and just say it how it is up front, right? As opposed to later. It comes out eventually.
Right. Well, and that's the other thing too, that sometimes in leadership, you have to be willing to hear things that you don't want to hear, but make it safe enough for your employees to share that, because it's happening whether you know it or not, and it's better to be in the know than not.
Yes, for sure. Agreed.
Good. Let's talk about some of the marketing and sales trends that you're seeing in manufacturing. What are you seeing in how manufacturing companies are approaching their sales and marketing efforts in today's competitive landscape?
Yeah. I think since COVID, there's been this massive shift, and it's progressively sped up, I think, by the AI coming full front and center across multiple other channels that people just can't really ignore. So I think with COVID, really, people could no longer do trade shows, and they had, that was their one referral source of getting business. Door knocking, they couldn't do that. And so they started thinking about, what else can I do? Or am I just going to be patient and wait till this passes? And so we've seen a lot of organizations start to ask a lot more questions and have leadership get much more involved in sales, where I would see patterns before of sales team is the sales team and their job is to get the leads in and close those leads. But the communication and the relaying of what is happening in the market wasn't necessarily very clear rolled up or have really clear dashboarding. And I think there's a much deeper openness right now to using tools, using data, leaning into what's working, what's not. And to your point earlier, like having much more transparent conversations with people on both the sales and the leadership side.
And there's always so much miscommunication between departments. Engineering is always saying that salespeople are terrible because they're overpromising things that they can't do. And salespeople don't understand that engineers may be able to not do the magical keys that they need them to do. So just getting everybody involved in the process and understanding all the roles and what it actually takes to make a sale and what it actually takes to make a product or provide a service, so that you can have those transparent conversations.
Yeah. I love when organizations take that and have either the person sit in live to those calls or listen to their call recordings, so that they can actually hear from the perspective of how a customer is responding to feedback and messaging. And I think it also helps give a little bit of humanity between the internal teams of, okay, their job isn't as easy as I think it was. And like, I have respect for it's challenging and they're working hard and they're trying, and being able to see that, it shines a little bit of light.
Exactly. Wow, they're actually not just spending all their time on the golf course.
Yes.
So what advice would you give to manufacturers who are looking to expand their reach to new audiences?
I think the biggest thing is know what your existing market is really well. If you don't know where you're starting, it's very hard to have a trajectory of where you need to go. Definitely recommend going through and doing NPS and getting on calls with clients and really hearing from their point of view, listening to sales call recordings. And then outside of that, taking those learnings and making sure that it's integrated into your messaging. So whether that be launching new channels like LinkedIn or looking at sales tools to be able to nurture your leads from your trade shows, but really making sure that it's a full circle, closed loop. Everybody is on the same page. You can get a lot done with those audiences and be able to test them a lot faster in those new markets when there's really clear communication between them.
Yeah, like you said too, reaching out to the clients you already have to find out, what do you like about working with us? What do you wish that we did? Whatever it is. So you're getting that feedback, but it also gives you yet another touch with that. And they may come back and say, oh, I didn't realize that you did that, because you get so used to selling one product that you don't, they don't even know that you exist in this other area. And there's no easier person to sell to than somebody who's already bought from you.
Exactly. A lot of times too, we'll see that happen where they come back and give that information and then they start planting the seed of how come they didn't know, having that self-reflective moment of like, why didn't that? They worked with us for 5 years, but did we not project enough on social and tell our audience of what we're doing? Are we not connected enough to the key decision makers of our existing client base to make sure that message is going out? Did we send an announcement? Was there a press release? And being able to take those learnings and make sure that there's not other people within their network that don't know about their new services or the ability to cross-sell.
Right, absolutely. Well, that's along the same lines, but what are some of the other challenges that manufacturers face in adapting to modern marketing practices? What are some ways they can overcome that?
I think consistency is one of them. I think there's a lot of activity that we will see happen, but it's not always meaningful activity. So they might have, okay, I am posting on social media, but there's no goal. For example, the company will post and then they'll make their sales team go out and repost, but there's no training behind, here's how we use LinkedIn, here's how we communicate, here's all the tools to make your life easier and save time and energy to be able to get a better result from that. It's just, hey, you should use LinkedIn and go test it out and see what you can do. And so having a cohesive strategy across the entire team makes everything better.
Yeah, I really like the idea of having a goal of what are we doing and why are we doing it? Because if all you're doing is you're posting your newest fangled product on LinkedIn, but there's no personal interaction, you're not talking about your team members, you're not talking about your company mission and how you're making a dent in the universe so that those potential clients can know and trust you. You're just another piece of the noise that's out there. And unfortunately on LinkedIn, there's a lot of noise.
Yes, there is a lot of activity, that's for sure. But yeah, I agree with you. Even your value system and the people and the faces behind your organization, the stories are what is going to compel people to reach out, buy, connect, making it really human, as opposed to only posting about product. You need a mix of both, but one without the other just doesn't perform.
Exactly. And with the use of AI, it makes it so much easier. And it's also important to still even personalize the AI, because I'm such a super user of AI for things as, oh, this post wasn't even tweaked from ChatGPT. In today's expanding marketplace, okay, Chat, good writing. So it makes it easier for us, and we still have to keep the human element even when we are working with the robots.
Yes. Got to work together.
So speaking of technology, how can manufacturers leverage it, such as either CRMs or automation tools, to really enhance their marketing and sales efforts?
Yeah, for sure. So everybody we work with uses HubSpot in some way, shape, or form. So about 7 or so years ago, maybe a little bit longer now, half of our client base was not using HubSpot and half were. And the people who had HubSpot had such exponential growth because we didn't have to log into 15, 20 systems to try to connect the dots across their full funnel. And so having that visibility allowed us to make much faster decisions into, hey, their close rate is getting hung up. Why is that? Let's go back to each deal stage and really see granularly, okay, there's not enough content support here. We need more case studies. Or our messaging is off. Look at people aren't opening these emails, or let's A/B test this. But without that deep insight across all sides of it, it was very hard and it was a lot of manual labor. And so the more organizations who don't function in a silo and have this omni-channel approach where everything is connected and reporting gives so much better, visibility, faster decision making, speed up their ROI significantly, save money. There's just a significant amount of things that come from it. And one of the things within HubSpot is the CRM component. So we have clients who use lots of other CRMs and some use HubSpot as their CRM. So we can either integrate it or we can migrate you off of something. And if you have nothing, we can build from scratch. So either way, but the thing is that everything is tracked.
Yeah, I know in the sales training that I do, I think that it's the hardest thing is to get people to use any CRM. And I told them at the beginning, my CRM was an Excel spreadsheet. And then actually I used HubSpot for a while. I've used several, and it's not, and it's nice when you have those all connected. I've gotten myself into the habit with mine is the very first thing I do when I sit down in front of my computer is I open my CRM, and these are the people who I'm supposed to contact today. It's really, and it probably took from my first CRM a good year before that developed the habit. Now I can't imagine anything else, but just getting people to use what they have. Just because it's on the computer doesn't mean that it's doing anything.
Exactly. Even sometimes we'll see people come in and wait, my email can get connected to HubSpot and it can automatically go in, or I'll switch out your forms and then you never have to do a manual contact database. If somebody's filled out a HubSpot form on your website, it automatically goes in. It can automatically trigger into a pipeline. It can automatically trigger a team for follow-up or automatically nurture with an email and then serve up, to your point, like a hot leads list. So based on what you deem is a hot lead with their lead score, some salespeople we work with don't even necessarily exist within HubSpot, and their flow is that they prefer their emails, but all of that bidirectional sync still allows that information to come through. So the marketing team can do the best that they can to support the sales side, but sales still isn't interrupted with their day-to-day.
And you look at, we're in such a crowded market right now that everybody's trying to yell louder than the rest of the noise that's out there. And it really does come down to that consistency. Are people seeing me on a regular basis? Again, with the CRM of never, ever putting a lead into your CRM without a follow-up date, because otherwise you get lost into the eternal abyss.
That's like the vortex of the CRM.
Exactly. So how are you seeing that manufacturing companies are really striking that balance between maintaining their core values while still adopting innovative marketing approaches?
I think leaders have gotten more involved in that process, I think, where there is more ownership of what needs to happen and holding accountability in terms of the values that we see. I think a lot of times we would hear, but I don't want to upset the sales team and tell them, but we've grown 30% every year. And if I push back and I want them to do something on LinkedIn or update their CRM, like what if they quit? And so this fear of having guidelines seems to be less of a conversation now, which I think is really exciting and just a shift in the market.
Yeah, exactly. And once people get used to using it and then they're seeing some of the benefits of it, they're getting some feedback, they're connecting with their clients and customers. We look at storytelling as part of that role. Again, getting out the mission and why they want to do business. What are you seeing as far as the role that storytelling plays with helping manufacturers connect with their customers and then they more effectively use that?
I think one of the things, and you had referenced it earlier, is historically we'd see like a lot of generic content that they might have internally created and been like really unpolished or not target audience specific or not branded appropriately. And so I think that is one thing that we're seeing some of these shifts to, where it's much more consistent in terms of how they're engaging with it and what they're using, and really having a strategy behind this is powerful and there are really important messages that can help speed up my process and my interactions. But having that consistency is really important.
Yeah. And everybody's story is a little bit different. We think about, as a speaker, I've never climbed a mountain while blind, and I've never been in an airplane crash. What kind of boring life do I have? And how do I make a story of it? We all have our own story. We can think that we don't have stories, but we all do. And capturing those interactions with clients can really play a part of that.
I agree. I think it's almost being comfortable having a certain level of vulnerability. I think that there's almost, we have to be so polished in social or how we present ourselves. But in actuality, people don't do business with a company. They do business with the person. And getting in and having that connection with the human through storytelling of something you've overcome or new product and the excitement behind what that launch feels like, or all of the obstacles that you had to solve for, or new team members who did something amazing to celebrate them. All of those little stories help people remember you. And then they might not in that moment need it, but we have people that come back years later or months later that say, I saw you and you said this, or you posted a picture about this that really touched me or had emotional connection to, or was really interesting. And so that's how people remember. And so if you can't always be everywhere to everyone, storytelling is a really powerful way to stay in their minds.
Absolutely. Yeah. People don't remember statistics. They remember the story that go behind it. So what do you feel are some of the common misperceptions that manufacturers have about marketing, and what do they need to do to approach it differently?
I think some of the common misconceptions are it's not measurable. How do I know what is actually going to work? And I also think that there's this misconception that on both ends of the spectrum, we have people that come in and need it. I need 500 leads in a month. It's like, how do I get there? But don't have the budget. And then we have people on the other end that are like, I know this will take years to happen. So finding some middle ground, because it's not, depending on what channel you're using and depending on what KPI and goal you have, there's lots of ways to get there, but really having a clear path before setting out on some of those plans. And so just making sure you're aligned.
Yeah, it's so funny you say the 500 leads in a month, and then I think about, and immediately I went to trade show leads, and how many of those just sit? Like,
yes.
There you have people giving you their treasured email address and phone number, and the salesperson doesn't call them back. It's just like, why did we go?
Or they only call them back once. I'm like, did you email? Did you message them on LinkedIn? Like, how many touch points? How many channels? How much automation? It doesn't even have to be you manually doing the task. But yeah, trade shows kill me too. I'm like, oh my God, these people are hot leads.
Right, exactly.
I had met. Oh, go ahead.
No, it used to be back in the day, we talk about the fact that it would take 7 touches for people to even know who you are. And now I've seen the numbers being 21 touches, because they're ignoring most people because of all the noise. They're ignoring every third one that you're putting out there. You have a salesperson that, well, I emailed them last week and they didn't get back to me. It's like, you were in a stack with 500 other emails because they were on vacation the week before. 21 times, and there's the CRM. Again, I sent them an email. I sent them a LinkedIn connection. I sent them snail mail. I did something. I had one. It's funny. This person, the potential speaking client, had been ignoring me literally since 2017.
Oh
and
my.
I have been in her email, snail mail, LinkedIn, like every quarter since 2017. When I finally got the gig.
That's awesome. Congrats.
But
Persistence, right?
yeah,
Consistency.
and it's both. And I think that's what people need to know is that as long as you are coming from a point of providing value and service, you're not being annoying. If you're saying buy my stuff and that's the only interaction you have, yeah, you're annoying. But
Yeah.
if you're saying, hey, I thought this would be helpful. Hey, I wanted to connect you for this. Hey, I saw this article, whatever it is, it's building relationships. And that's the whole thing that you're talking about here.
Yeah.
Marketing and relationships.
I think it's hard to your point to when organizations are used to doing it face to face and not necessarily knowing how does that translate into digital. It's such a different way. And I find people sometimes just forget like normal day to day. Like if you were facing this person, would you go up to them and say, quick question? Or do you know what I mean? Like when you get the emails, if you filter, my spam box is full of, I think it's like 500 and the subject line is quick question, Jennelle, or quick question. It's never quick. It's always a tool that has no personalization or thought or human behind it. And to me, it's the quickest filter to know, hey, this is not going to be an aligned person. But it's hard. I think people want volume when it doesn't necessarily have to be volume. It's quality of those rapport and relationships that you're building. One tool that I love is Vidyard. So using Vidyard to create video in the email and really having that human component, but still leaning into the digital and tracking and notify you when they open it and just having that visibility, but being able to be a face in a sea of email.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. I started using Bomb videos, the same thing, and now I use Hippo videos, Vidyards out there. And then that's the thing. We have so much access to so many different technologies. It's find the one that you like and more importantly, find the one that you're going to use because they're the same.
Yeah. Yep. If it's not easy, I find that it will not be adopted. So if there's just to your point, like there's a certain education component to it, right? Where you're going to have to get used to it. But if it still feels like there's friction after really giving it a committed effort, then to your point, there's so many tools. Like there's not, it's endless to what kind of options that you can have. So find something that you love and makes your life easier.
Yeah. So looking ahead, what do you think are the most exciting opportunities for manufacturers in the marketing space?
I think trade shows. I find trade shows, especially layered with the digital, the best of both worlds. Like you get to still see people. You don't have to necessarily door knock. You can focus on one big, really engaging event, but thinking about not just a booth. Thinking about how else can you create a human component and build that rapport with people. And then the follow-ups. I think that there's some really creative things to do in the follow-up that I'm starting to see come through a little bit more. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens with trade shows.
Yeah. And when we didn't have them a couple years for the first couple years of the pandemic, there was definitely something missing. Because we as human beings like that interaction. And to actually put the face with the name and go to the trade show and touch the stuff at the booth and play with the products, see what's out there, see all the different technologies that are out there too. So yeah I'm a huge fan of trade shows.
Get in the steps, right?
Well, exactly. And hoping that the person putting on the trade show got the extra padding for the people booking the booth for those.
If you love your team, make sure to pay for the extra padding.
Yes. Yeah. Well, as we're getting to the end of our time together, what would you say is your best tip for somebody to get started if they really don't have that consistent marketing process that we've been talking about?
I think I would recommend making sure your team is aligned. So making sure that there's a clear focus of this is the organization's goal and this is each department's goal, and making sure that those measure up to each other. And then aggregating whatever data you have. So making sure you have all of the tools and the CRM or Excel sheets, and then having that be the key point to move forward and determine what is working and what isn't.
And if somebody did want to continue the conversation with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, thank you. You can follow me on LinkedIn at Jennelle McGrath. You can reach out to us at marketveep.com and fill out a contact form or take our scorecard to see if you are a fit. Or you can listen to our podcast, Finding Business Happy, which explores living your best life inside and outside of work.
Okay. Jennelle, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show today. Thanks so much for joining me.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's such a fun conversation. Appreciate you.
I'm Lisa Ryan, and this is the Manufacturers Network Podcast. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Manufacturers Network Podcast. Do me a favor and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues so we can grow this network and connect more fantastic folks just like you. You can either send your buddies to the website at manufacturers-network.com or share the Manufacturers Network podcast on your LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or wherever you and your industry friends hang out. The bigger and faster we grow the network, the stronger and deeper the community we'll all have. Thanks again, and I appreciate you.